Four Patriot League football teams opened up their seasons with wins on Saturday, and the Lafayette women's soccer team is off to its best start in 10 years. All that and more on this edition of Patriot League Roundup. Welcome to Patriot League Roundup, your home for highlights and scores around the Patriot League. I'm Jimmy Johnson. After winning its 9th Patriot League title, Lehigh football had high hopes heading into 2011. Ranked in the preseason top 25, the Mountain Hawks knew that they had a lot of work to do to equal the hype, and they got off to a nice start on Saturday. Let's go out to West Long Branch, New Jersey for number 13 Lehigh taking on Monmouth. The Monmouth Hawks took an early 7-0 lead, but Chris Lum wouldn't let that stick. The Lehigh senior dumps it off to Zach Barquette for this 32-yard touchdown, one of Barquette's 3 TDs on the day. That made it 21-7 at halftime, and Lehigh continued to pile on the points in the third as Ryan Spadola catches his second touchdown pass of the game to make it 28-10. Jake Draw also got into the action, catching Lum's 4th touchdown pass of the game to make it 42-10 early in the 4th. Lehigh went on to win 49-24 with Lum completing 22 of 34 passes for 346 yards. Spadola had 6 catches for 148 yards and Draw finished with 8 catches for 117. Last season, the Bucknell Bison struggled with a new coach and a rookie quarterback, winning just 1 game. On Saturday, they hope to change things right away. Off to Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, where the Bison welcomed in Duquesne for the home opener, and it didn't start well for Bucknell. Trailing 16-3 with 1:52 left in the first half, Tim Bolte turned things around by picking off Sean Patterson's pass and returning it 24 yards for the touchdown. Less than 90 seconds later, the Bison were back in the end zone as Brandon Wesley found Gabe Squara for this 11-yard touchdown pass to take a 17-16 lead. Duquesne regained the lead in the second half until Wesley used these late-game heroics to win it with 57 seconds left.
High formation, 4th and goal, Bucknell at the 1. It's Wesley rolling right. He's under pressure. He fights. He dives. He scores! That's the call.
The Bison held on to seal the 27-26 victory over Duquesne. Wesley finished with 173 yards passing, while Jeremiah Young ran 19 times for 105 yards. Colgate knew heading into 2011 that it could count on running back Nate Eachus, but there was one big question of who would replace graduated quarterback Greg Sullivan. Well, after 1 game, the Raiders have their answer. That answer is sophomore Gavin McCarney, who fakes the handoff here to Eachus and runs free to the end zone for the first of 2 rushing touchdowns in the game. He also threw 2 touchdowns, faking to Eachus again and launching a 49-yard touchdown pass to Daniel Chase, who sheds a tackle to just get in for the 14-10 lead early in the second quarter. McCarney made it 21-17 a few minutes later, hooking up with CJ Stempek for the 2-yard score. After Colgate rallied from 10 down to tie it in the 4th quarter and force overtime, McCarney moved the offense to the goal line for this game-winning opportunity.
Pavalco on the left side is the H-back. Eachus lunges forward. He's in, and the Raiders win it. The Raiders win it. Colgate wins 37-34, and it's a final score as the Maroon pours onto the field.
McCarney finished with 21 carries for 114 yards, while Eachus racked up 165 yards on 36 carries. McCarney also threw for 201 yards. In other Patriot League action, Georgetown defeated Davidson 40-16 on Saturday with Isaiah Kemp passing for 172 yards and a score. He also ran for 73 yards and another touchdown to help Georgetown start 1-0. Nick Campanella also had a big day for the Hoyas, rushing for 82 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Georgetown defense forced 4 turnovers and recorded 6 sacks in the win. In Fargo, North Dakota, Lafayette fell 42-6 to 11th-ranked North Dakota State Saturday. The Leopards didn't turn the ball over in the game, but they failed to get the offense going, gaining just 198 yards to North Dakota's 416. In East Hartford, Connecticut, Fordham fell 35-3 to UConn. Darrell Whiting was limited to just 21 yards rushing in the loss. And on Thursday, Holy Cross played under the lights at Fitton Field for the first time in school history. Hosting number 25 UMass in a CBS Sports Network telecast, the Crusaders provided an exciting contest on the opening night of college football. The lights were on for the first time in Worcester, Massachusetts, and the Crusaders gave number 25 UMass a scare. Trailing 7-3, Holy Cross failed on a surprise onside kick, and a few minutes later, Kellen Pagel threw this 10-yard touchdown strike to make it 14-3. Holy Cross answered on the next drive with quarterback Ryan Taggart on 4th and goal, calling his own number and weaving into the end zone to make it 14-9. Holy Cross kept it close but struggled to convert on many opportunities, like this blocked punt in the 3rd quarter which set up the Crusaders near midfield. 3 plays later, Kirk Nelms fumbled the ball and gave it right back to UMass. The defense, sparked by stops like Jimmy Thomas's here in the third, held UMass to 3 points in the second and third quarters. But in the fourth, UMass pulled away as Pagel threw his second touchdown pass of the game with 7:51 left. Taggart closed the gap with his 19-yard touchdown pass with 51 seconds left, but it was a little too late. Taggart finished the game completing 23 of 44 passes for 246 yards and a touchdown. Linebacker Ricky Otis finished the game with 10 tackles and 2 for a loss. With the defeat, Holy Cross drops down in the early season standings behind 4 1-0 teams. Last season, Georgetown opened the season with an upset of Lafayette. This Saturday, the Hoyas will host the Leopards in one of 2 Patriot League contests. Kickoff is set for 6 p.m. in Washington, D.C. Another Patriot League contest will kick off earlier in the day with Holy Cross hosting Colgate at 1 p.m. Holy Cross won 31-24 last season despite allowing Nate Eachus to rush for 155 yards and 2 scores. Lehigh will host New Hampshire in a big early season test for the Mountain Hawks, while Bucknell will host Marist, trying to go 2-0 for the first time since 2008. In men's soccer, Colgate is off to a strong start at 2-0-1, and Patriot League teams combined to go 9-5-2 last week. Many of those 9 wins came in dramatic fashion. Like at Army, where the Black Knights' Devin Purley crosses the ball to junior Josh Copey for the game-winning goal over Manhattan with 36 seconds left in the first overtime. In Hamilton, New York, Mike Reese provided the late-game heroics, directing the game winner in with his head just 46 seconds left in double overtime to defeat Hartwick. American, Colgate, Lafayette, Lehigh, and Navy all posted victories during the week, while a pair of coaches collected milestone victories. American's 3-2 win over George Washington in the first match of the DC College Cup gave Todd West his 100th victory of his career, while Lafayette's Dennis Bond reached the same plateau with the Leopards' 1-0 win against Rider. Bond's 100th win came in 10 years to the day after he coached his first match on the Lafayette sidelines. Lafayette's quick start is one of the biggest stories coming out of last week in women's soccer. Thanks to cohesive team efforts and strong individual performances, the Leopards jumped out to their best start in 10 years with a 3-0 record. Army won 2 games at its own Black Knight Classic in West Point, with Kim On scoring 7 points. Navy collected 2 road victories last week, while Bucknell, Colgate, and Lehigh also picked up wins. 3 road contests stand out in this week's schedule, including American's Challenge at Maryland, ranked number 3 in last week's NSCAA Continental Top 25 poll. Bucknell will also head on the road to take on Binghamton, while Colgate visits Cornell. In field hockey, American showed why it's so highly thought of with 2 shutout victories last week, including a 7-0 win over Penn and a 2-0 win over number 7 Princeton. The win over the Tigers marked the team's 3rd over a top 10 opponent since 2004, and the 1st over a top 10 foe at Jacobs Field. As a result of the win, the Eagles moved up to number 8 in the most recent top 25 coaches poll. In women's volleyball, Lafayette and Lehigh are both out to fast starts at 3-1, while American went 2-2 last week to improve to 3-3 on the season. The 3rd weekend of non-league play starts Friday with all 8 teams in action. 26 matches are scheduled to be played between Friday and Sunday. I hope you enjoyed this week's edition of Patriot League Roundup. Join us again next week for more highlights and scores here on Patriot League All Access. Have a great week.